What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today. With me I have some more RPG horror stories. Speaking of RPG horror stories, I feel like I still have some of my own RPG horror stories to share. I kind of talked a little bit about the broad issues that were happening, but it could get a little bit granular and kind of focus on the specific issues and certain events that kind of transpired on the old D&D server. If anything, I feel like I'd want to have Micah and Mary present for it, specifically Micah, since he and I were there from the very beginning, so I want to make sure that I'm not, misremembering how things event, and as well to get his own perspective, because honestly, both he and I were really burnt by the server to the point where, it's not like that we want to do it, but sometimes we do get into a venting fit for like 2 minutes or so. The server just really burned us that badly, and it's a learning experience that sometimes it's best to leave on to new pastures or start your own thing, which I'm glad we did. Anyway, regardless of that, let's get to the first RPG horror story for today. DM doesn't like the school of enchantment.
Enchantment?
I've been a long time forever DM for my friends and wanted to find a group in my local shop. Luckily for me, there was a group just starting up at level 5. I told the DM I wanted to be a wizard with some dip and thief so I could pickpocket, sort of like the Now You See Me magicians. He thought it was a cool idea and let me do it under the obvious rules of no stealing from other players. Session 0 went smoothly as we had some bandits raid the local tavern. For context, I'm a level 2 enchantment wizard and level 3 thief.
Enchantment!
So I have hypnotic gaze and fast hands. I managed to get one of the first bandits dazed, then used my quick hands to put manacles on him. After the fight, we turned him in along with any bandits that surrendered when the guards came in. It's at this point things got a little weird, as it stated that the guards were looking at me like a suspicious person. But I thought nothing of it since this was a mid-fantasy game, but maybe this town was not used to magic users. Next session comes around and we get a request from a local to find out where the local bandits' hideout is. Our ranger leaves to scout out the landscape to find the bandits, where the cleric asks the local church about which direction the bandits are coming from. That leaves me and the swashbuckler twiddling our thumbs. The swashbuckler asks around and learns of rumors that there's a local who had ties to the bandits. We both go together to confront him. Manage to get him in an alleyway and we both dash to catch up to him. I use hypnotic gaze on him, but the guy screams for the guards. As the DM, that means he passes his rolls, and the DM says he doesn't need a roll. All of a sudden, 2 guards show up, and I get ready to roll initiative to then start running. But the DM says the guard captures me and put me under arrest for malicious magic. What? Malicious magic? Hypnotic gaze? What? At this point, I'm just confused and ask what I did wrong. The DM auto character says that using hypnotic gaze is an evil act. I'm lawful neutral, and then the fact that I'm using it is creepy. He just cuts to me being put in jail while the swashbuckler is just ignored by the guards. The session ends shortly after, and the DM says I can roll a new character if I want to, or change my magic school, but I was not having that.
Enchantment?
Oh, I see. You know what? Honestly, I have no idea where this game is coming from. Like, I think they were just upset that, oh, you have hypnotic gaze. I hate hypnotic gaze. I'm gonna make it super punishing for the player. If you have like a list of spells that consider evil spells, shouldn't you probably let your player know, like, hey, grabbing this spell is gonna affect how people see and look at you in the world. But also the fact that the guy doesn't need to pass a save. I think the DM was just trying to pull you into a gotcha. They were like, oh, they're gonna use that again. I gotta put them up to a situation where they can do it, so we can have the bandit call the guards, and then they immediately capture the player without a save or anything. They capture him and put him in jail and execute him and stuff because I want to target this player specifically. Honestly, this is basically player targeting. If there was a set of spells that are considered evil, wouldn't you want to let your player know that using these spells is considered evil and the world can actually like be affected by it? Or let's say you don't like hypnotic gaze, tell the player, hey, I don't have hypnotic gaze in my world because I found it a little questionable and like, moral or whatever other reasons. You have your own reasons. DM has their own reasons for not having specific spells in the world. Some DMs don't like counterspell. I like counterspell, but I understand why some DMs don't like counterspell, and they don't have that as like a spell in the world, because it becomes I use counterspell. I use my reaction to counterspell your counterspell. Well, I use my reaction to counterspell your counterspell, so it counterspells the other counterspell. It doesn't counterspell whatsoever. Oh, I have a counterspell as well, and BBG uses 5 counterspell. It just becomes like a whole rigmarole. Basically, it's completely unnecessary. I understand why some DMs don't want to have unique spells, but in this situation, to punish a player in such a way without letting them know ahead of time after session, I don't like using a hypnotic gaze. Could you maybe switch to a different spell or different school of magic? But no, they decided to wait for the player to use it again so they can trap the PC and put them in jail to make a mockery of them and say that's creepy and stuff, when they could have just be like, hey man, I don't really like hypnotic gaze, it makes me feel uncomfortable, could we re-roll your School of Enchanting? They're perfectly fine with them picking School of Enchantment originally for the wizard rogue character, but as soon as you use hypnotic gaze, I feel like it becomes like a contention. The DM is like, oh, hypnotic gaze is too powerful, I gotta punish the player for using it, you know? It basically becomes a trap. It's unnecessary, entirely unnecessary. Anyway, let's get to the next story for today.
Enchantment!
An alpha DM took over my group and ruined it, and nobody cares but me. As with most stories here, there's a lot of this, and full context is impossible, but I'll do my best. My group had been playing for about 2 years now, probably longer. I was the initial first person to run the game and put in the bulk of the work to teach everyone how to play. Eventually I got busy with school and wanted to try being a PC, and then began our agreed upon cycle of DMs who picked a setting or made a homebrew and then ran the game for some amount of time. Most games we had fizzled out, but our prior game lasted a very long time, being roughly 10 months long. Some of us felt a little fatigued by being in one setting with one host for so long, but we as a group had never talked about how to naturally end the game or what scope was. Our DM was really cooperative though, once we did talk to him, and wrapped up stuff up for us to try something new. But onto the current DM, the most notorious complainer that the prior game was too long and had to end. Trying to adhere to the group's scope lesson we had prior, he said he wanted to run this setting for 3 months or so and do something smaller. An exciting idea considering the nearly year-long game prior. We made characters, we were ready to play, and he proceeds to run the worst series of D&D sessions we had played up to that point. Allergic to structure, combat, or prep. Every session started late, sometimes hours late. Would budget for close to 4 hours or play an actual play only maybe 2 of those hours. We couldn't learn relevant software ahead of time, meaning he was often asking us questions mid-session about basic functionality. Would regularly cancel sessions last minute because he didn't feel like running one. Reasonably to a point, but something like 4 sessions in a row were missed because of this. I was so fed up after the first month and a bit, I begged him to reconsider running full-time and to do bi-weekly to give him more time to prep and allow us to play another better run game alongside his. He predictably refused. I was and still am the only one in my group who cared that our regular weekly game days had been made so much worse. I ended up quitting because I felt my time was being wasted and had better things to do. Other friends have mentioned they felt their time is disrespected as well, and we had thrown tantrums over their comments. Your post suggests you're the only person that cares about this going on and that's going bad, but it seems like everybody's unhappy about this. This DM just has no structure, doesn't understand what they're doing, is not prepping stuff, delaying sessions and missing sessions for no reason other than I just don't feel like it. Bruh, if you don't feel like it, then maybe take a break or something. If you're consistently missing sessions or moving sessions because you just don't feel like it, maybe take a hiatus, let somebody else DM in between. The bi-weekly session idea would be great because it would allow somebody else to run a session on every other week that's gonna be more consistent while you're too busy canceling your own session. This, yeah, I could see a problem with this. Yeah, I could definitely see a problem, and it looks like everybody also is kind of miffed about the whole thing. Now we are 6 months later, and the game is still going, with several more months expected. He had lied about that initial scope. Other questions about when someone new can host, potentially me, are always ignored. Constantly saying he needs more time for the story, but that he never agreed to a shorter game. His excuse is that everyone will quit when they're tired of playing, which is just such a frustrating way to hold the group hostage when they just don't want to argue with him or have more conflict. I realize that I'm the odd one out of feeling like this. I was lied to, and a hobby of mine is ruined. Can't do anything but just leave the group and be frustrated. Nobody cares. I don't know if I should feel more betrayed by the DM or my absurdly complacent friends. Some of my friends have told me they're sad that I've essentially quit the group, but I think I have to start looking for other online groups to join and just let my old group do whatever they're destined for. If the problem is just the DM and not the old group of players, why not just run sessions, like run your own game with your group of friends without the guy that can't make up his mind? You know you can do that, right? You can totally run sessions and play games with your friends and have somebody else DM without waiting for this one complacent guy to do it. Like, yeah, they're not running a game, and they're obviously making excuses for not running a game, so just say screw it, we'll just play without you, we'll start a different campaign. Maybe you can DM, maybe somebody else from friends wants to DM, get somebody back on rotation and stuff, start a new game. I mean, if the problem is it's literally just the one guy that's dragging things out for no reason, ignore him and play without him. You don't need him, because from what you described, everybody is kind of unhappy with the guy, the way he's running things, and I think everybody wants something different to change. Or maybe it could be the catalyst for the change. Somebody that steps in and says, all right, since you can't run your game properly and constantly delaying, we're gonna just start a new game. And you, when you have your stuff together, when you actually have everything put together, then you can get back to running your game. But until then, until you do proper prep work and actually put in the effort to try to run your game, we're gonna playing a different campaign, a different game. Maybe you yourself can run it or somebody else can run it, but definitely not this guy that constantly delays it, the current DM, I guess you could say. If they're constantly delaying and making up excuses like, well, people will quit when they're eventually just tired of it, maybe they are tired of it already. Maybe they are indeed tired, they just haven't said it out loud. Or maybe somebody just needs to start something new, just to give everybody else a little bit of reprieve, something new and fresh. I'd really recommend it before running your friends off completely. But I mean, if they want to wait for that other DM campaign, then I suppose there's nothing you can do except just find other people to play with. But I really highly reconsider not blaming your friends for the complacency. I think they just don't want to rock the boat, maybe. That's just my assumption, but that's just what I think. Most people don't want to rock the boat. I just want to have a good vibes, good time and stuff. And probably, you know, the guy that's currently running DM, probably not a terrible guy, just really sucks at DMing, just incredibly sucky at DMing. I think you could totally give it a shot by come back to the group and say, okay, since you can't run a game, I'll run a game. Or somebody else can get on rotation. We could start a brand new campaign. And once the bad DM can actually get those stuff together, then they can maybe give it a try again. Maybe one less chance or something. I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you think about this story in the comments below, and I'm gonna get to the next story for today. DM punishes me for bad character idea. This is a story from a few years ago, about 4 years ago, before I became a forever DM. I was a player for this one campaign that was the first and last time I was a player. DM of this campaign had completely homebrewed the world and even a few mechanics. Session 0. When we did our Session 0, the DM explained his world and the overall story. To keep it short and sweet, the world we were in was an aftermath of a long war that nearly wiped out magical creatures altogether, and all that was left was the human race. Since this was the first time I was a player, before I knew what the story was about, I created a Goliath barbarian. I had to plead with the DM to let me play with this character, with him telling me non-stop, if you do this, your character will be an outcast. I agreed to it because I thought it would be a good story element, but it didn't last long. Side note, I know now probably should have done what he wanted, but he didn't fight me very hard and just let me do it after asking him a max of 3 times, and his response each time was the warning. I'm definitely not the hero in the story, or in the right, or so whatsoever. The DM could have also just said no, because if the whole point is just to play as humans in this like post-apocalyptic world, and the whole point is to play as humans, I mean, maybe they also give you a warning. I don't know, honestly, I have no idea. If the DM didn't want you to play as anything other than human, they probably should just said no, or give you extreme warning of, okay, but here are the caveats for it. You're gonna be extremely like ostracized, and you'll have a difficult start, and this, are you sure what you're... If they give you, are you sure, then that's like a good flag of like, oh, you're really putting yourself in a position where you're gonna not have the best of time ever. Anyway, let's continue. Session 1. The first session went over well, for the most part. Typical tavern start with encounter to kickstart our brave party. It was then that I realized I was not gonna have any fun. When the encounter began instantly, rage ready to become the party tank and be one of the front lines. That's when the DM told me to roll a con save after eating an apple that was given to me in Session 0. In my confusion, I took it in stride, thinking this was one of the enemy's abilities, or something to that extent. Natural 1. The DM describes my barbarian eating this apple, thinks as he tries to get angry, then fails. Pretty funny at the time, but this is when I got the explanation. Apparently the DM didn't like that I just raged and got a buff without any downsides, so he came up with this homebrew rule that in order to rage, I had to eat a rage apple, then roll a con save to see if I could maintain the rage. Upside for my fellow party members was anyone could do this, though the DC for them would be higher. Instantly, I felt like my character didn't have much to offer the party. Being such low level, I didn't expect my character to have big con stat. I was not succeeding on a lot of my rages. Wait, so the DM just punish you for just be able to rage without any downsides? But that's the whole point of Barbarian, is to, you rage and you enter this hyper mode for like a minute and you're basically a tank. That's the whole point of playing Barbarian. If you have to add extra mechanics onto it just to succeed the rage because there's 2E, that's the whole point of Barbarian. There's a whole mechanic behind them. Bonus action rage, and then they start swinging with maybe like a great axe, great sword, whatever they got, javelins, I don't know, whatever they have going on, they just gotta start swinging and slinging. If you make the one mechanic that barbarian is supposed to do a difficult thing to achieve, that sort of ruins the whole point of playing a barbarian, because now it's difficult to play barbarian. Oh, suddenly you can achieve rage as easy. You have to eat a rage apple every single time. What if you run out of rage apples? Do you just not able to rage whatsoever? It seems really stupid to be like, wow, you did that too easy. I'm gonna make it painful for you. Ah, thanks, DM. What a genius creator you are. But it's already like a normal feature. It's a normal feature. It's a normal feature to do this thing. Why do you need to make it so painful? Why is everything gotta be a ball buster? Fast forward a few sessions. Many sessions later, I learned a few things. One, the DM must not have liked that I was a magical creature. I say this because even though I knew that my character would be getting the short end of the stick in every town we went to, felt like the DM went out of his way to make me feel extra bad. If I didn't pass a deception check, my cloak wouldn't hide my face, I would be instantly kicked out of whatever town we were in. My strength, the one thing that was made me great, didn't seem to make me all that great. Even when I rolled a nat 20 to lift a concrete bench, I'd still have help from another party member to lift it. Yeah, I felt pretty useless. Yeah, because it would make you feel useless. The DM is specifically targeting you because they decide themselves, yeah, I'll let you play Goliath because you wanted to, even though I gave you warnings to, when I really should have said, no, you can't play Goliath, but now I'm gonna make your whole experience so painful, make you regret choosing Goliath because it's your fault, player, your fault. I, as DM, could have said, no, don't play Goliath, play a human being and just be that, but no, and continue targeting you because I made the mistake that I made. Yeah, maybe the player should have not played a Goliath, probably should have played a human. But then when I asked the DM, hey DM, can I play something other than a human, like a Goliath barbarian? DM's response should have been no, instead of, well, you can if you want to, but you're gonna have a painful time because I'm gonna make it so painful for you. Like, it's such a vague thing that they gave them. If they would just say, hey, if you play anything other than a human, I'll make you, like, playing experience a living hell, that'd probably be way more honest than what they gave it to them already. Seriously. Last session I played with this character was a trail of acceptance to talk to a chief in this tribe we were visiting, and each one of us had to go out and kill a demon boar to prove our worth. Desperate to feel like a badass, and my character being a musclehead with barely any brains, you could probably tell, yes, I did make a grog strong jaw. My character went to look for the biggest boar he could find. He ended up finding this boar, but when I attacked it, did no damage. My character, confused, kept attacking the sleeping boar till it woke up. First turn, the boar had it wipe my character out first hit. Apparently this boar was a god in the tribe, and me attacking it, of course, brought consequences naturally. But this was the last straw. I packed up my bags and left. So this... oh my god, this DM is literally setting up a failure. So everybody else tried to find a boar, no problem, they could do whatever. But as soon as you find a boar, some sort of invincible god creature, and now brings trouble. This DM is literally actively using your character and using like every possible opportunity to set you up for failure at every single turn. This is not a fun game, it's not a fun DM, and I hope you finally learn the lesson here that this is not worth it, you should get the hell out. But this was the last straw. I packed up my bags and left. I was contacted later by the other party members begging me to come back next session and make a new character. I did not go back. I talked to the DM after that and I told you as a magical creature it was going to be hard for you, and it's your fault for going against a god. Yeah, but I didn't expect to be full on nerfed at every encounter. Thought I have to give and take thing. You know, give up respect for NPCs and give them more leeway being a magical creature living in a world made but run by humans while searching for free magical creature that went to hiding during a war. I didn't think he'd set out to make my character life a living hell. The DM at every point could have said no, play human, but they didn't, and instead chose to make the player's experience a living hell and make the player feel bad for choosing something the DM never said no to. If the DM wanted players just to play human, she would just said no. Simple as that. If a player asks, hey, can I play this? They're asking because they're genuinely interested and I want to know what the DM says. And as a DM, you're fully allowed to say, no, you can play this and that. You're allowed to say that. Don't put this as like a weird trap for your players just to be like, oh, you want to play as this instead? Right, I'm going to take every opportunity to make your playing experience absolutely insufferable, because that makes you look like a dickhead. Don't be a dickhead. Be honest with your players and just let them know up front what you want them to play as or not play as. Simple as that. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.